Okay, so let's dive in. Language.
Sure.
Something we use every day, but
Yeah.
have you ever really stopped to think about like how it works? Not just, how we speak, but what gives words their actual meaning? Today, we're taking a deep dive into a really fascinating, fundamental philosophical debate. It underpins our entire understanding of language and actually reality itself in some ways. We're going to explore Jerrold J. Katz's work, The Metaphysics of Meaning, and is to unpack this profound conflict between two major viewpoints on language. Is meaning purely in how we use words? Or is there something deeper, a hidden sense to language?
It is fascinating, and it's not just some dry academic thing. Kripke himself talked about this tension, didn't he? He felt this pull between like a Chomskyan sense for deep regularities in language, and then this Wittgensteinian feeling that maybe a lot of those supposed deep structures are just, well, Lufgeboid, he called them, empty constructions. And this isn't trivial. It's a dilemma of the utmost significance for philosophy today. It's really about this clash between naturalism, trying to explain everything via science, and non-naturalism or realism. The idea that there are abstract, non-physical things, especially when it comes to language. Properties, relations.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. To get Katz's argument, we first need to really understand Ludwig Wittgenstein's ideas. He was central to the linguistic turn in philosophy. And his approach was, well, pretty radical. He wasn't trying to just rebuild metaphysics. He wanted to kind of eliminate it by showing there are no non-natural metaphysical facts. Full stop. Wittgenstein saw philosophy's job differently, not explaining or deducing things.
More like therapy, right?
Exactly. Therapeutic. Untangling conceptual knots we tie ourselves in with language. He used reminders, he called them, to bring words back to their everyday use. And that leads to his famous phrase, the meaning is the use we make of the word. It's all about what we do with words.
Yeah, and he even starts his big work, The Philosophical Investigations, with that quote from Augustine about learning language, which sounds like common sense, right? Pointing and naming. But Wittgenstein uses it to show how our intelligence gets bewitched by means of language. How it makes us look for these deep, hidden semantic atoms.
Well, maybe there's nothing there beyond just ordinary facts, things we can observe.
Exactly. No secret card. It's all out in the open in the use.
Okay, but that does raise a question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If it's just use, what about that feeling we sometimes have that there is an underlying structure?
Yeah.
Or an essence? Wittgenstein tackles that head on with his symmetry argument against hidden grammar.
The slab example.
Yeah. The builder calls out slab. Is that automatically short for bring me a slab?
We tend to think so, yeah. But Wittgenstein asks why. He says, but why should I not, on the contrary, have called the sentence, bring me a slab, a lengthening of the sentence slab?
Huh. Okay, I see.
His point is, there aren't deep truths hiding here. They're just different expressions.
With similar uses.
Exactly. Similar functions in the language game. And what's really powerful is how he extends this to concepts generally, like the word game.
Right, the family resemblance idea.
Yeah. He suggests game doesn't have one single thing, some essence, that defines all games. Instead, you find family resemblances, overlapping similarities, like features in a family, Some have this nose, others those eyes.
But no single feature shared by absolutely everyone.
Precisely. And this really challenges the whole idea that words need these neat underlying definitions. Meaning becomes much more fluid, context-dependent.
Okay, so Wittgenstein presents this really compelling picture. Meaning is use, language is a tool, forget hidden essences. So where does someone like Katz come in and say, hold on a minute, what's the pushback? Katz argues that, look, Wittgenstein was brilliant in critiquing certain views, like maybe Frege's idea of meanings as separate abstract objects. But he thinks Wittgenstein was wrong about theories of meaning generally. So Katz proposes his own thing, this proto-theory.
Trying to bring sense back into it?
Exactly, reclaiming sense as distinct from just use. And he makes this absolutely crucial distinction as key for his whole non-naturalist stance. The difference between linguistic types and linguistic tokens.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Right. So the type is like the abstract word or sentence, the blueprint, the idea of cat, where the sentence pattern X sat on Y.
Got it, the general pattern.
And the token is the specific instance. Me saying cat right now, or this specific inscription. The cat sat on the mat. Katz's big move is arguing that semantic facts are facts about types, not just these individual tokens, these instances of use.
So meaning resides in the abstract system, not just in the particular actions.
That's the core idea. It's not just about the doing, it's about the underlying structure.
Okay, that distinction really forces the issue. If meaning isn't just use, if it's about these abstract types, then what defines their senses? How do we know what they are? Katz uses what he calls semantic curiosities as evidence here.
Oh, yeah, like the flammable, inflammable thing.
Exactly. Soluble and insoluble mean opposites, antonyms, easy enough.
Right.
But flammable and inflammable mean the same thing, synonyms.
Which is weird.
And then valuable and invaluable. They aren't really synonyms or antonyms in the same way. Invaluable means extremely valuable. Katz says these things cry out for explanation. Simple observation of how we use the words doesn't seem to cut it. Why does in sometimes mean not, sometimes mean very, and sometimes seem to do nothing much? And his answer involves this idea of decompositional sense structure.
Decompositional, so breaking down the meaning.
Kind of. He argues that even a word that looks simple on the surface, like woman, has a hidden complex meaning structure. Part of the sense of woman includes the concept female.
Okay.
Which is why, he says, a woman who is female just sounds redundant, obvious.
Right, you wouldn't normally say that.
Even though nothing about the form of the word woman explicitly says female, the redundancy comes from this hidden structure within the meaning, the sense.
So meaning isn't always right there on the surface.
That's his point. It often has these hidden layers we grasp intuitively. And this lets him challenge Wittgenstein's ellipsis argument, the slab. Example, using ideas from linguistics.
Yeah.
Think about Chomsky's examples.
Like John is easy to please versus John is eager to please.
Exactly. Surface structure looks really similar, right? Subject, verb, adjective, infinitive.
Yeah, pretty much identical structure.
But we know John relates to please totally differently in those two sentences. In the first, someone finds it easy to please John. In the second, John is eager to please someone else.
Okay, yeah, intuitively obvious when you point it out.
Right. And explaining that difference, Katz argues, following Chomsky, requires postulating underlying syntactic structures, deeper levels.
Yeah.
Or think about clean yourself. Who does the cleaning?
Well, you, the person being told.
Right, but the you isn't explicitly stated in the command, it's understood. Linguistics posits an underlying you subject to explain the reflexive pronoun yourself.
I see. So these examples show.
They show a clear divergence between meaning and use at this deeper level. Meaning isn't always just the surface use, there's structure underneath. And then what about Wittgenstein's family resemblance for concepts like game?
Yeah, how does Katz handle that? Does he deny the resemblances?
Not entirely. He sort of says, okay, maybe the applications of the word game, the tokens, the actual instances of games we point to, maybe they do show that kind of family resemblance. Lots of variety, no single defining feature. But, he argues, the sense of the word game itself, the abstract type, does have a structure. For instance, part of the sense might be a contest conducted according to rules.
A more core definition.
A structured sense, yeah. And that allows for things like superordination, subordination. Board game is clearly a type of game. That relationship exists because the abstract concept game has a structure.
So even if the edges are fuzzy in practice, the core concept has definition.
That's the idea. The type has structure even if the tokens show resemblance and variation.
That makes a lot of sense intuitively, that feeling that there's something more structured underneath. Okay, so Katz doesn't just stop with Wittgenstein. He takes aim at the whole broader naturalistic movement and philosophy, right? People like Quine, Davidson,
Putnam, Bird, yeah.
Big names.
And his charge is pretty serious. He says their attempt to reduce everything about language and logic to natural stuff, psychology, physics, whatever, commits a naturalistic fallacy.
A category error, basically. Yeah, like trying to explain the rules of chess just by looking at the physics of the moving pieces. You're missing the actual game. And a prime target is Quine's famous indeterminacy of translation idea.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Quine argued, basically, that since there's no absolute language-neutral meaning out there to compare translations against, you could have multiple different translation manuals from one language to another, and these manuals could be totally incompatible with each other.
But both would perfectly match all the observable linguistic behavior, everything the native speakers say and do.
Right, which suggests that objective meaning is kind of a myth. It's always relative to the translation manual you pick.
Okay, so how does Katz respond to that? It seems pretty powerful. Well, Katz argues that Quine's whole setup works only because it deliberately ignores what he calls intentional evidence.
Intentional? With an S. What's that?
Yeah, not intentional like purpose. Intentional refers to properties of meaning itself. Things like synonymy, sameness of meaning, ambiguity, multiple meanings, analyticity, truth by definition. Katz says linguists use this kind of evidence all the time to figure out meanings. For instance, we know a table that is a piece of furniture is redundant. Why? because piece of furniture is part of the meaning, the intention, of table.
Got it.
But a table that is not found at the base of the Eiffel Tower isn't redundant. That's new information. Katz argues this kind of intentional evidence can help distinguish between competing translations. It shows there's more than just observable behavior. There are facts about meaning itself. And this links to another big question. Can we define language or logic purely in naturalistic terms? Like, can we just say language is whatever is in an ideal speaker's head, psychologically?
Chomsky's competence idea, maybe?
Sort of. Katz argues, no, that doesn't work either. Even an ideal speaker could, in principle, be wrong about the language.
How they're ideal.
Because for Katz, the language itself, the system of abstract types and their senses, constitutes objective norms. They exist independently of what any one person, even an ideal one, happens to think or have internalized.
So language is like math. The rules exist whether or not my calculator gets it right.
That's a good analogy. The naturalistic fallacy here, Katz says, is confusing an empirical theory of competence, what's in the speaker's head, with a scientific theory of language itself. The abstract system, they're different things. And this is where, fascinatingly, Katz brings intuition back to the forefront.
Intuition, like a gut feeling.
More specific than that, he argues that just like we have mathematical intuition, our ability to grasp necessary truths about numbers or shapes, truths we don't get just from seeing things.
Okay, a priori knowledge.
Exactly. Knowledge independent of experience. Katz argues we have a similar faculty for language. Linguistic intuition. It's what allows us to grasp these objective sense structures.
So when I know John is easy to please is different from John is eager to please, that's linguistic intuition at work.
That's how Katz would see it. And this implies that fields like linguistics, logic, maybe even ethics, rely on this kind of a priori knowledge because their subject matter senses, logical forms, ethical values are abstract, non-natural objects.
Wow, so intuition isn't just fuzzy feeling. It's a way of knowing about abstract reality.
It's presented as an indispensable source of knowledge for these domains, something that naturalism, trying to base everything on sensory experience and empirical science, really struggles to explain.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, listening in? We've really gone through a pretty intense debate here, shaping how we understand communication itself. You've got Wittgenstein's really compelling view, meaning is use, language as a toolkit we use in social contexts.
Very grounded.
And then Katz's intricate defense of hidden sense structures, abstract types, this whole realm of non-natural meaning accessible through intuition. It really forces you to think, doesn't it? It's not just about grammar or dictionaries. It's this fundamental question. Is meaning something we create together through our actions?
A social construct, basically.
Or is it something objective, out there in a way, that we sort of discover and try to conform to, like finding the rules of logic or math?
And that really leaves you with a big question to chew on, doesn't it? Do you lean more towards language being purely a social construct shaped entirely by use and agreement? Or do you feel there are deeper objective truths about meaning, senses that exist independently of how any one person or group happens to use a word right now?
Yeah.
And thinking about that, what does your answer suggest about knowledge itself, especially in those tricky areas like logic, math, maybe even ethics? If meaning is purely use, what does that mean for logical necessity or moral truth? If meaning is objective and abstract, how exactly do we access it? Hopefully this deep dive has given you a kind of shortcut into this really significant philosophical conversation. It's not just about words, it's about the nature of reality and the very limits and maybe the surprising power of human knowledge. It gives you a new lens, maybe.